Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what that means. If God knows the end from the beginning, then he must have known that this woman that he brought was going to lead to the fall of man. So if God, knowing that this woman is going to lead to the fall of man, and still gave man and said, this is your wife, that means the fall of man was actually orchestrated by God. Then that means that God is not just, because it was a setup. It was called entrapment. That is what they are saying. They don't, that is the silent consequence of what these clergy people are teaching. That it was God that brought, that means it was God that orchestrated it, the fall of man. If that were true, if their analogy is true, what they are not telling you, what you don't want to think of because of sacrilege, because of treachery, because of an abomination, you don't want to offend God. What you don't want to expand your mind to think of is that if God truly gave Eve to Adam for wife, that means God intentionally sabotaged the future of man. Yes, because he knows the end from the beginning. He's Alpha, Omega. Before you were born in your womb, he knows who you are, called you by name. So he already knew what you would become. So it means he already knew. But because God did not give him a wife, God gave him a companion. He chose, like we're all choosing today. God brought her for a name. The man gave her a title, wife, and did not name her, called her woman. It was after everything collapsed, he now gave her a name called Eve. So a lot of those men, a lot of those clergy now resorted, when they could not show me, they now resorted to telling people that, well, Adam and Eve, at least God brought Eve to Adam, that God was the one that initiated, marriage. So there's something I want to show you. From that story of Adam and Eve that they did not study, I'm sorry to those who are Muslims, but you see, this story has killed more than half of the population that married under Christian culture and, religion. Using the story of Adam and Eve, how clergy can use that to mystify and hypnotize people into believing that God was the one that brought a wife for Adam. Now, let us go back to the story of Adam and Eve. I will be very fast. Look at this. From Genesis 1:27, God created man in his own image. Genesis 2:15, I'm going fast. You would see that, and the Lord took man and put him in the Garden of Eden. Genesis 2:16, and the Lord commanded man. You will notice that when God created man, he simply called him man and not Adam. You look at Genesis 2:18, he says, and it is not good for man to be alone. He did not say it is not good for Adam. In the beginning, when there was only one, God referred to him as man. But here, when in Genesis 2:18, God said it is not good for man to be alone. Let us make him a woman. Let us make him a helpmate, a companion. It was at that point that God decided to create a woman to be man's companion, that God now gave him a name, Genesis 2:19. And that was where the first That was the first verse that God referred to man as Adam. At that point was where God changed the name from man to Adam. Before God thought of a companion, God never gave him a name. He was simply referred to man. God said it is not good for man. He did not say it is not good for Adam. He had been called man all through creation. But the time God decided to make a woman to be a companion, that was when God gave him a name, Adam. And the first time he was referred to as Adam is Genesis 2:19. I'm going somewhere. There's something we all seem to miss in this story of Adam. And 2:19, and out of the ground, that is Genesis 2:19, and out of the ground the Lord formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, brought them unto Adam. That's when he gave him the name. To see what he would call them, and whatsoever Adam called them, it says, whatsoever called Adam called every living creature, that was their name. So this is it. Anytime God created something, animals, he will bring to Adam, to see what he will call him. And whatsoever God created, Adam gave the name. It is written in Genesis 2:19 that Adam named every living creature, and whatsoever name he gave, that was their name. Okay, Genesis 2:20 confirms what I just said, that Adam gave names to all cattle, all the beasts of the field, all the fowls in the air. Adam gave their names. And then suddenly, Genesis 2:22, after God had decided, let me create a woman, he now created the woman. And the rib which God had taken from man made he woman and brought her to Adam. Look at this. Every living creature God made, he had a tradition of bringing them to Adam for what? For Adam to give them a name. So when God created woman, in line with the tradition of God, God brought her to Adam. And on seeing her, Adam in 2:23 said, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. The reason God brought the woman to Adam was not to marry, but to name. Because that is how God had been doing. The tradition of God was to create and then bring to Adam to name. So God created the woman and then brought to Adam. And look at what something funny happened here. Adam, instead of naming Eve, he didn't, but called her woman, because she was taken out of man. Now look at this. Genesis 2:24. He now said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Adam was the first to use the word wife, and not God. God said, I will make a companion, a helpmate. God created and then brought to Adam for the purpose of naming, because that was the tradition. You can see from the earlier scriptures that God will bring to Adam for a name. But on seeing Eve, on seeing the woman, Adam did not give a name, but called that woman, and then gave her the title of wife. And because that was the name, that was what Adam called her, that is woman, you would see that she was now referred to as woman. The title wife was what he gave her. He gave her a title instead of giving her a name. And look at it from chapter 3. And the serpent said unto the woman, and the woman in chapter verse 2, and the woman said unto the serpent. He did not give her a name, but called her woman. But this is the most interesting thing. Look at it. After she now ate the fruit, God came. Adam, where are you? That is Genesis 3:11. And Adam hid, said, we were naked. And God said, who told you were naked? Genesis 3:12. Adam now said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, why didn't he call her wife? That the wife that you gave to me. He said woman, because God brought her and he named her woman. Not that God brought a wife. Why didn't he say, when he called her wife, why didn't he now say, it was the wife you gave to me? He knew that God did not give him a wife. God brought a woman for him. Why? For the essence of naming. She gave me and I ate. Now, God said to the woman, look at, she was called woman, woman, woman. Do you know the funny thing? The very, very funny thing was that after God now cursed the earth, cursed the man, cursed the woman, Genesis 3:19 says, in the sweat of their face will you eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For dust you are, and dust you shall return. After that final curse, look at this, Genesis 3:20. And Adam called his wife's name Eve. It was after he had fallen, he now gave the wife the name Eve, which God originally had brought for the purpose of naming. But he did not name her, called her woman. The same title he held as man until God said, let me bring a helpmate. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Why is a name necessary? Why didn't God name the animals? Why was it that God brought the animals to Adam? Okay, let me even not make you rack your brain there. You saw here that everything God created, he brought to Adam to name, and Adam named every living creature. So when God created Eve, he brought to Adam, as was his custom, so that Adam would give a name. But when Adam saw her, that was the first classical example of love at first sight. He saw her and fell in love instantly. And instead of giving her a name, he said, no, you will be mine, woman, and you will be my wife. But forgot a name. So the funny thing is that why was it that when God decided to create a woman as a helpmate, it was only then did God himself now name Adam? Why didn't God name Adam in the beginning? He was just referring to him as man. But until the time he decided to create woman, God now saw it necessary to give man a name. Man, Adam. What is the significance of a name? Now, the funny thing is that I was told, God called him Adam. What is the meaning of Adam? While I was growing up, they told me that Adam meant first man. But I went to check the Hebrew Bible, and I saw that Adam means earth. That is soil. In the Conch Hebrew, that is original Hebrew, it means red earth. That is clay. So we can see how God molded Adam, because his name meant soil. Now, one thing about Adam's name is that if it means earth, all of us were created from the earth. So what God meant by naming him earth means bearing fruit, to be fruitful, creation. Everything was created from earth. And if God were to name him earth, That means that he would grow. That means things will come out of him. So Adam became origin. Adam became the first man from which many others. Adam was not the only creation, but he was the first creation. He was the prototype of man. So God called him earth, meaning he was fruitful. Why does God give people names? When God wanted to bless Abraham, he changed his name from Abraham to Abraham. When God wanted to use a warrior king, he changed it and gave him a name, Gideon. When God wanted to use Saul, he changed his name to Paul. Why is it that God gives names? What is... I don't even understand. The importance of a name until I studied and I saw that name in another translation in Hebrew meant reputation. Reputation is another word for character, your fame. So therefore, I now understand why name is used in genealogy. It is used to explain the character of people. So you will see that you will not see where it is written God of Abraham. You will see God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, showing you that along these lines, this is how God works. These are the kinds of, you see that God traces back. So God gave you a name for genealogy so that you can be traced. Then for character, for reputation. Abraham meant father of many nations because he was going to be father. So God calls you what he wants you to be, what you have an inherent. And that was why it was important for things to be named so that they will become as their name. Now I now saw that it meant noment, which means nomenclature. Every scientist, before they give a name, they study the kind of, if it is what it is water, if it's an amphibian, if it's a mammal, they study character to give name. Now, what Adam did not name Eve, but gave her a title, which means she was without form. She did not have character. She did not have a reputation. She was a stranger because there was nothing to be called of it but woman. Now remember, the story of Adam and Eve is the story of the fall of man. It was after she had eaten the serpent, by extension causing man to fail, that Adam now gave her the name Eve. What is Eve? It means living. It means life. On the other hand, life was taken. But it was rather late because she had no reputation, no character, no name, no nomenclature. She was formless. A serpent was able to manipulate. But Adam had a name which meant earth, which means origin. The serpent could not, because his character is in the name. But because Eve had no name, formless, it was easy to manipulate. Listen, if you just give me clay, I would mold to whatever I want. It was easy to go after the woman, not because she was a weaker vessel, but because she had no name. And that is the same thing that our people are doing, marrying women that they don't know their names. You meet a woman, you say because your auntie introduced her to you, you were looking for, you are of the age to marry, and you are looking for somebody to marry. You say, good women are in the village. You go and tell them to look for a wife for you. They just bring somebody. You don't know. 2 months you are married. Then you now eat of the fruit of bitterness. And you now say, I didn't know you were like this. You did not know who she was. You did not know her name. You did not know her character. You did not know her nomenclature. You We just married. That is the same mistake Adam made that we are still making today. Marrying formless people. I'm talking to the men. You don't date. You say because you are from the same church, the same village. Excuse me, the same village. What that tells me is that you are afflicted with the same affliction. You people have the same problems, because whatever is peculiar to your town means both of you have the same peculiar issues. That is what the same tribe tells me. You have the same victories and you have the same weaknesses. If you say I'm from Ondo State, they will tell you that those arrogant people, our weakness is the arrogance of education and enlightenment. So when you tell me I want to marry from my... So there is no mix. You are supposed... This strength is supposed... Somebody is supposed to be stronger where the other is weaker, and you know, your weakness also, there will be somebody. So when you believe that good women can only be from your tribe, and you are saying, but she's from my tribe, we are the same, we know the same. Listen, you don't know anybody until you date them. You don't know anybody until you are married to them. That is why at times a husband will know more about a wife than almost, if not more than, the parents.